Hello, and welcome to the MMA Mic Drop Podcast. My name is Jade Bunky. In today's episode, I'm going to break down everything that's about to go down at UFC London, Evloev versus Murphy. This fight card is absolutely stacked. In fact, I think this is the most interesting fight card of the year outside of the inaugural event on Paramount+. It features 2 undefeated fighters in a title eliminator. It features 7 undefeated fighters overall. And the way the matchups are designed, they're constructed in a way that's bound to deliver some highlight finishes. Now, what's interesting, the main event is probably not going to deliver a highlight finish, but the rest of the card will. And I am actually going to give this fight card an A. I think it is absolutely amazing. All right, let's start at the top and work our way down. The main event, Movsar Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. Evloev, he is 19-0. Murphy, he is 17-0-1. Interestingly, both are riding on 9-fight win streaks in the UFC. Both, you can make the argument, are overdue for this moment. Movsar, he is ranked number 1 in the division. Murphy, number 3. It is an appropriate matchup to make. The odds favor Movsar. He is a -230 favorite. Murphy, he is, I believe it's plus 195. While this fight might not deliver in terms of highlights, it's going to deliver in understanding who is the better fighter, who is the rightful person to take on Alexander Volkanovski. Both guys have a high degree of technical acumen. Let's start with Movsar Evloev. I mean, we all know what he is. He is a grappler. He is relentless in trying to take the fight to the ground. He has some pretty quick entries, and once he gets to the ground, he has good wrestling, and he is a submission threat. Although he hasn't finished anybody in the UFC yet, which is surprising that he's had 9 fights in the UFC. He's won every single one of those, obviously, but he hasn't been able to lock in a sub. Now, if we look at Lerone Murphy, he's a well-rounded athlete. He is a better striker than Movsar. And going back to Movsar, just because he's known for his grappling doesn't mean he's bad at striking. He is a decent striker. He's not a good striker, but he's a decent striker. So he's not going to be, he's not going to be out of it on the feet by any stretch of the imagination. I think Lerone Murphy is a really good striker. He's very methodical in his approach. He has a really good jab. He can also wrestle when needed, and he's coming off that highlight knockout of Aaron Pico with that incredible spinning back fist. And what's interesting is Lerone Murphy is 34 years old, so he's starting to get at that age where fighters start to fall off a little bit. But he had probably his best performance, or at least in terms of a highlight finish, in his last fight. I don't think he's fallen off at all. And I think this is going to be a very technical bout. I think Movsar will have his moments. He will be able to get Murphy to the ground. He will be able to control him for long stretches of certain rounds. But I think Lerone Murphy is going to outstrike him, and he's going to outdamage him. And give me Lerone Murphy by a very close decision. All right, the co-main event. The co-main event is absolutely insane. No, it's not insane in terms of name value. It's insane regarding what you're going to see. It features Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell, and the odds are identical to the main event. Luke Riley, he is a -230 favorite. Aswell is a plus 195 underdog. Luke Riley is another undefeated fighter, and let me just get his exact record. He's 12-0. Aswell is 11-3, and Luke Riley is an electrifying striker. He has crazy fast hands. He throws up crazy volume, and he hits hard too. And it's interesting when you see somebody who's such a gifted striker. You have a couple questions. How will he? What's his grappling like? What's how does he handle adversity? And let me at least answer the second one. In terms of handling adversity, on the regional scene, he was fighting against a pretty high-level fighter. He was lighting him up. He got tagged. He got dropped. He was on the ground. He was in a very, very compromised position. He was able to weather the storm, and he was able to come back in the 3rd round and light this guy up. So what does that show? It shows toughness. It shows heart. It shows the ability to weather the storm. Now, what's interesting, I don't think he's going to need to weather the storm. I mean, I think he's better than Aswell to a pretty significant degree. Aswell is a striker too. He is pretty high volume, but he doesn't have the quick hands. He doesn't have the same technical acumen. And, I mentioned the other question about Luke Riley is the grappling. I don't really know yet. He's so dominant on the feet. I don't know, how good of a grappler he is. I've seen moments on the regional scene where he showed, some decent defensive grappling, but that's not his bread and butter. It's striking. And this is going to be a fight to watch because I think Luke Riley can actually go far in this division. I think he is a legit talent in the UFC. He's 1-0 in the UFC already. Make that 2-0. Give me Luke Riley by second round TKO. All right, the featured bout, Michael Venom Page versus Sam Patterson? What? Are you serious? Michael Venom Page 24-3, Sam Patterson 14-2-1. This is an interesting matchup. I mean, because Sam Patterson is unranked. Michael Venom Page is one of the biggest stars in the UFC, and he's ranked in 2 different divisions. Now he's moving back down to welterweight now, and he is 38 years old. But when you look at Michael Venom Page, one thing stands out. I mean, it's 2 things actually. It's his striking and it's his speed. Now at 38, you might say has that speed fallen off? Not in his last fight. He was in his last fight. He still looked like the fastest guy in the UFC. And it's interesting because a couple years ago, what was it like? I think 2 years ago he fought Ian Machado Gary, and it was a razor close decision loss. He was right there. Some people, gave that fight to Michael Venom Page. And Ian Gary had nothing for him on the feet. And Ian Gary is incredibly fast. And it's his speed. He likes to lunge in and out of range. And he's one of the best kickboxers the sport has ever seen. I mentioned Luke Riley is an electrifying striker. So is Michael Venom Page, but they fight totally differently. Michael Venom Page is a little more... It's all about timing. He's going to bounce in and out. He's going to make you miss. He's going to counter strike, and he's going to strike you. He's going to strike right at the right time. And Sam Patterson, he has a little bit of power. He's not a bad striker, but he stands up way too tall. His chin is high in the air, and that's going to be a problem in this fight. Now, if this fight goes to the ground, Patterson is a really good grappler, and he's a significant submission threat. In fact, he is on a four-fight win streak, and all of those wins have been finished in the first round. So he is a dangerous fighter, but I don't think he's going to be able to get Michael Venom Page to the ground too often. Michael Venom Page has really good takedown defense, and he is going to be so elusive on the feet. He is going to be hard to hit. Watch Michael Venom Page outpoint Sam Patterson in a pretty entertaining, if you like precision striking, that is, a pretty entertaining decision. Now, before that, and this is where, when I'm talking about there's some undefeated fighters where this fight card is just exciting. Iwo Baraniewski versus Austen Lane. Baraniewski, he is 7-0. Austen Lane. Oh, let me get the odds for the Michael Venom Page fight real quickly. My apologies. Let me just click back into this. Michael Venom Page, he is a minus 180 favorite. Sam Patterson a plus 155. I think the line should be way, way bigger on that one. I even think the line should be a little bit bigger on the Luke Riley fight. I think he should be like a minus 400. I mean, this dude is good, and he is going to light Aswell up. But now, Baraniewski, okay, he is a minus 600 favorite. Austen Lane is a plus 450 underdog, and that is right because Baraniewski is going to light Austen Lane up in the worst way possible. This guy has earth-shattering power, and I'm just going to take a quick look just to remind myself, 7-0, 7 finishes, all first round. Now, he ran into some adversity in his last fight against somebody who was not that good, and this is in the UFC. It was his UFC debut. He comes out firing bombs, and he gets caught, and he gets caught cleanly by somebody with a little bit of power. It was against Ibo Aslan, and he had him in a world of trouble. Now, I don't really think this is anything to be concerned about regarding Baraniewski's future in the UFC. I think he was just reckless. He was probably trying to put on a show in the first round, get that first round knockout, and just did not respect somebody who was not a good UFC fighter, but it was somebody who had power. That was a mistake. I don't see him making the exact same mistake, but I see him catching Austen Lane in the first round, and I see him knocking him completely cold. So give me Baraniewski first round knockout. Before that, we're going to get Roman Dolidze versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Dolidze, a plus 350 underdog. Duncan, a minus 450 favorite. I think this is an appropriate fight for the card. It's not necessarily overly excited. I think does let me see does he still have a rank? Does Dolidze still have a number by his name? Because if so, this will definitely be a changing the guard. Dolidze is, well, I shouldn't say changing the guard. That's really indicative of when a younger fighter is going to really make waves in a particular division. Christian Leroy Duncan, he's not going to be a contender. He's a decent fighter. I mean, he's 12-2. Dolidze is 15-4. Duncan, he is. Let me see how many fights he has in a row, wins in a row. Okay, so he's on a 3-fight winning streak. Okay, and he's won 5 of his last 4. This is an appropriate matchup. He's a pretty good striker, has some decent power. He has 10 TKOs on his record out of 13 wins. Now Dolidze, he's a grappler. We saw what he did with Jack Hermanson in that same calf slicer. And he has big power as well, but the problem is he's old. He's slowed down so much, and it's just the age will make this fight not even competitive. Dolidze is 37 years old, and he is going to get absolutely worked here. Give me Christian Leroy Duncan by second round TKO. Now, before that, another prospect, the 8-0 Kurtis Campbell versus Danny Silva. And Danny Silva, let me just click. He's pretty young too. He's 29. He's and he's coming off a loss, but it's against Kevin Vallejos, and we know how good Kevin Vallejos is. Let me just check the odds for this real quickly. Campbell minus 235, Silva plus 200. I think that's right. Campbell is incredibly young. He is. Let me just check. Yeah, he's 23 years old. Let's see. Yeah, he's 23 years old. He's coming off a finish in Dana White's Contender Series. I think this is going to be a fun back and forth fight. Give me Campbell by, third round submission. Now, one of the most interesting fights on the card, and this should actually be in the main event. I mean, it is Nathaniel Wood versus Losene Keita. Keita 16-1, Wood 22-6. Now, Keita is he's a champ at a different promotion. His only loss is basically he was injured. I mean, he is an incredible athlete. He's got fast hands. He's good everywhere. He is basically a human highlight reel. But he missed weight in his debut. It was supposed to be against Pitbull, and Pitbull just said, yeah, no thanks, I'm not doing that. I'm a professional. And he has taken on a professional, Nathaniel Wood. Nathaniel Wood is good, and it's surprising that he hasn't, he's not fighting a ranked opponent. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Let me see. He's won, 6 out of his last 7. He's tough as nails. I think he's well-rounded. I think, let me just see how many, he has 5 submissions. When you look at his 22-6 record, 8 wins come by knockout or TKO, 5 come around submission. This is a tough order for a debuting fighter because no matter how good you are in a different promotion, the UFC is different. And I would say Nathaniel Wood, even though he's unranked, is kind of, he could crack the top 15. He probably won't crack the top 10, but he can crack the top 15. With that said, I think this test is still a little too tough. The test for Nathaniel Wood is a little too tough. Give me Keita by third round TKO, and let me just get the odds real quick. The odds, here it is. Keita is a minus 230. Nathaniel Wood is a plus 195. I'd make that a little bit closer. And I don't think I gave you the Kurtis Campbell odds. He's a minus 235. Danny Silva is a plus 200. And then, all right, now we're going to move into Sola Axel versus Mason Jones. Mason Jones is a minus 120 favorite. Axel is a plus 100 underdog. Now, Mason Jones, he's 17-2. Axel Sola, he is 11-0. Now, I think Mason Jones is a little underrated. He hasn't really beat, excuse me, he is a little overrated. He really hasn't beat anyone that good in the UFC. And I'm intrigued with Axel. Now, it did take him 3 rounds to beat Reese McKee, but Reese McKee, even though he's not that good of a fighter, he is a very tough fighter. He is 1-0 in the UFC. I look for him to continue this. Give me Sola by second round TKO. And let's see. Let me see who's next. Give me a second. 1 second. All right. We're getting into the big guys, and this is another fun fight. Louis Sutherland versus Brando Pericic. Pericic, he is 5-1-0. Sutherland 10-4. Pericic had his debut in the UFC, and it ended in a first-round finish, which, in fact, all of his fights in the UFC or outside of the UFC has ended in a first-round finish. He's a kickboxer who trains at Kick City Boxing with Israel Adesanya. And he, is an elite level striker for this division. He is a very big guy. I don't think Louis Sutherland is bad in the heavyweight division, but I think he's going to get worked here. Give me Pericic by second round TKO. And let me just bring up the odds on this one real quickly. Where is it? Okay, so Pericic is a -270. Sutherland is a +320. I mean, I think that's good. Whenever you get heavyweights, I think the line needs to be a little bit closer because any one punch, could really end it. And then when we get to, I love this fight, Mantas, Kondratavicius versus Antonio Tricoli. Mantas is a -700 favorite, and Tricoli is a +520, 25 underdog, and I think this is appropriate. So Mantas is legit. This guy has crazy power. He has great kickboxing. He has great Muay Thai. He has some incredible knees, and it doesn't matter if it's a flying knee all the way across the ring, which was how in some of his promotions, or across the octagon, or if he just gets you up in the clinch and just drives those knees into the body. This guy is dangerous everywhere. This is the fight, outside of maybe the Luke Riley fight, this is the fight that's probably going to be the most user-friendly, meaning, hey, you're going to see something special here. He's only 26 years old. He is pretty big, for the middleweight division. He has a 100% finish rate. And I'm going to look because I think all of his finishes, his first 3 fights, pro fights, he finished people in the second round, and all his wins after that are in the first round. He did get caught in his one loss as a sub, but this is going to be so. Tricoli, he's pretty big for the division. He is pretty rangy, but he's 0-3 in the UFC. Make it 0-4. He's going to get knocked out in the first round. Give me Mantas by first round. Knockout. And another good undefeated fighter, Mario Pinto versus Felipe Franco. Franco's 10-1. I mean, I think his record might mask a little some. Well, let me rephrase this. He hasn't fought the best competition on the regional scene, so his record might be a little misleading. But Mario Pinto, I mean, he looks like the real deal. I mean, he looks like he could possibly be a heavyweight contender. Let me see how he's young too. He's only 28 years old. He finished Jonata Denise. I think he's a legit top. I mean, I was going to say he's a legit top 10 fighter in the heavyweight division, but in the heavyweight division, that's not saying much. But it is interesting to see how far he goes. Let me just get the odds for you real quickly. Mario Pinto, oh my gosh, a -900. Franco's a +600. See, I don't like that at heavyweight. I think that line's way too wide. I think, I'm predicting Mario Pinto with a first round TKO. But the other guy hits pretty hard. It's heavyweight. I would stay away from this. I would not even touch this because now the question is, if you're doing DraftKings where it matters how the fight is finished, I still wouldn't touch this. I would do I would put Mantas as your main one or your MVP, and and maybe like Luke Riley. But I do think Mario Pinto is going to get it done in the first round. All right, we're going to rifle through these next three real quickly. Shamrock versus Abdul-Kareem Al-Selwady. This is a close one. Shamrock is minus 102. Al-Selwady a plus 118. This is an interesting fight. Shamrock, he didn't look good in his debut. He actually looked pretty terrible, but it was against somebody who was an undefeated fighter and might be pretty good. So it's a little hard to judge him on that. He is a submission threat. He does have 8 subs on his record. Let's see. His last loss before his UFC debut was way back in 2021. I'm still not sold on him. I mean, he did look pretty bad. Al-Selwady, the problem... Oh, for some reason I thought Al-Selwady was older. Okay, he's only 30. I thought he was much older for some reason. 15-4, 10 finishes. He's coming off a loss. So he's 0-1 in the UFC. But I still think that's going to be enough to get it done. Give me Al-Selwady by decision. And we just have 2 more fights. Shanelle Dyer versus Ravena Oliveira. Dyer, she is 6-1. Oliveira is 7-3. Let me just bring up the odds for you real quickly. Dyer minus 450. Ooh, that's a pretty steep line. Oliveira plus 350. I'm going to take Dyer by a decision. And before that, we have Melissa Mullins versus Luana Carolina. Carolina is the minus 125 favorite. Mullins is the plus 105 underdog. I think this line is appropriate. I think Carolina, keeps getting better. She's still not that good, but neither is Mullins. And give me Carolina by a pretty boring decision. That's all I have. Like, subscribe. Thanks so much.